lovelies. So today I am here with Quinny and Company.
Hi! I've been here before. I'm coming again.
And today we were supposed to do the Novel Alliance Book Club, but then Josh's internet was out, which was tragic.
I know, but...
That has been postponed. We're not sure till when. Once we talk to Josh, we'll make sure that's announced on his channel or on Twitter or something. I don't know. It'll be announced somewhere.
When the internet gods decide to smile upon him again, we will.
Yeah, so hopefully that will happen soon, either later today or tomorrow or something. We'll figure it out. But since Quinny and I were both planning on doing a video chat thing, and we've had an idea for one for a while, we thought we would share with you our infinite character wisdom. Quinny, what are you doing?
Drops of marker. I dropped a marker.
Good job.
Yes, we have infinite character wisdom that we are now going to share with you, and just knock yourselves out. This is going to be really helpful.
The other day we were hanging out on the lovely Facebook page Character Lounge, which I highly recommend you check out. I will probably remember to link that in the underbar. But we were talking to Lady Violet, who runs that page, and talking about our characters, and she was curious about how we got to know our characters as deeply as we do, and have such interesting relationships with them.
Interesting.
But, yeah. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about how we develop our characters and get to know them, and how we write characters. We both
speak.
Yeah. We have words today, guys. But I think Quinny and I are both pretty character driven. I think you're more plot driven than I am.
No, well, yes, I would say that, except I'm having so much trouble with my plot, and then I suddenly realized how much time I've spent on characters and not on plot, so it's become a little bit of a problem now.
I have that exact same problem. Characters are infinitely more fun.
I know. Like, who needs plot, frankly?
Well, and I strongly believe that a poor plot can be carried by good characters, but a good plot with bad characters will just suck, always.
Yeah. So really, we have the high ground.
Right? Like, I mean, we still probably should develop our plots, but at least we have good characters, and I feel like that's the most important thing.
Shameless bragging, hashtag.
I don't necessarily think I'm great at characters, but it is the most important part of writing to me, and it is, I think, the part that comes the easiest.
Yep.
How
are we writing things down? Hashtags. All right. So, I would like to say that we did not plan at all beforehand. So.
Yeah, we really have no idea what we're doing. This was probably a really bad idea, but.
Well, the greatest things that have ever happened have always been bad ideas. Except for when Napoleon lost the war. That was not good. That was a bad idea that became a bad reality. Don't be Napoleon.
Always good advice. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea.
I don't know.
So funny.
Yes.
How do you develop your characters? Or where do you get your characters? Should we start there? Where do characters come from?
Well, Catherine, characters for me just sort of happen, but I do think about it. It's like some people just say like a character tapped them on the shoulder and said, tell my story. And for me, it's kind of like I usually get the idea for the plot first, and then I'll be like, well, I probably need a main character, so I'll just pull out a random gender, and I'll be like, well, a girl, and then I'll be like, probably this color of hair, and then whatever, and then I'll pull out a boy, and then I'll start forming it from that. So usually shaking your head like, what?
We just write so different, which I think makes this a really good conversation because we're coming at it from very different directions.
Exactly. So now you know. What is your type?
My friend Andrea writes very similarly to me, and she's going to be back in Utah in a few months, in like a month and a half, and then you guys are going to get to meet her. YouTube. Actually, she's already made a few videos, but she made the analogy or story, or I don't know how to describe it, but basically we both have figured out who our muses are, and she says that her muse basically gets to decide which characters are allowed in, and they give her their stories. And I really liked that comparison because I kind of feel that way, but like there's this infinite crowd of characters out there, and some of them are chosen specifically for me, and they're brought in and tell me their story. And I have very little control over who I'm writing about, or I have very little control in general as a writer. And I just kind of start writing, and characters develop themselves before me. Like, I don't know who they are until I start writing. After that, I can kind of develop, I can start getting to know them better. But when I first start out, I have to just start writing to get any idea of who they are. They don't come until I start writing.
Well, that's, yeah, you've told me that. That's a good way to do it. And I think that we've said, like, we share some elements of the creative process. Like, yeah. I have to write mine before they really happen. I do a lot of planning outside writing, though, so.
I think I do, too, but in a very different way. That I don't consider, I don't weigh, like, what would be the most effective or what I think should happen. I don't put out multiple possibilities. I just kind of ask my characters what happened. But I do think a lot about what's going to happen before I write it.
Yeah. No, I have to, goodness, I have to lay out every single possibility they could have, and then, like, well, which possibility would move my plot along? Like, they were literally morphed to whichever I want my plot to be, and if they don't, I'm like, you're acting weird. Snap out of it. So I'm like redoing my plot right now, and then I was like, but wait a second, that'll change my main character again. Oh well, just have to do more plotting.
See, that's so weird to me, because if I tried to change my characters, they would just kind of like look at me funny. Like, no, I had to change my plot to fit my characters. When I first started writing my current project, my main female character, Marelle, was originally named Madeline. And she was the sweetest, most demure, shy, timid. I'm not kidding. And I start writing, and Jack was always Jack. Like, he's had to go through some changes, but for the most part, I've always known Jack. But he comes in to meet this sweet, demure sister, and she starts, like, giving him a hard time and teasing him and kind of yelling at him a little bit.
Everybody should yell at Jack, frankly. He needs to be yelled at.
But she's, suddenly this little spitfire, and I'm like, I don't know you. But because of that, she and Jack had a really weird relationship, because he was overly protective of her to the point where it seemed almost abusive. But when she was this timid, shy girl, that was him actually protecting her. But now that she's this strong, vibrant, crazy girl, it seemed controlling, and I had to go through an entire draft before I realized their relationship didn't make sense, because I was writing my other idea. I was writing Madeline and Jack with Marelle's personality.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any control over that. Marelle just showed up and wasn't Madeline.
I have a lot of, like, sometimes I will write a character and then I'll be just really kind of unhappy with how it's working. I'm like, yeah, you're not acting right. And usually it feels to me like, well, you're not acting like your true self could be. So in that way, I think characters usually do have a self that they have that's true to whoever they are, and I need to get down to that. And I've had some characters who really were easy to figure out, and who others that just kind of did not want to say anything or do anything. I don't actually talk to mine like you do, but it's a little more distant, but I think about them so constantly. I have to think in their heads. And yeah, Berlin is still like almost an enigma. So it's like he's just like,
quiet characters are the worst. My character die in my other book, and she is she doesn't want to be a main character. I had to talk to her best friend and her boyfriend to get information about her because she was like, don't write about me.
I'm boring and dull.
Yeah, she basically was like, my best friend would make a way better protagonist, go write about her, which wasn't helpful because her best friend was also like, I would make a way better protagonist write about me. And also her boyfriend was the most like easygoing guy ever. And so if I would get something wrong about his character, most of my characters will correct me and be like, no, that's wrong. Thanasius, I wrote 3 drafts in which he had silver eyes. And at one point I was like, okay, that doesn't actually make much sense. I liked it because it was this weird magical thing, but when I understood my magic better, it wasn't a thing. And I was like, Thanasius, you don't have silver eyes, do you? And he was like, no, but like,
but I let you think that.
Your bubble.
All I really know about Thanasius is that he's hot and he likes cereal. Like, those are the only...
That's really all you need to know about.
That's all you need to know.
So how do we get to the point where we know these things about our characters? Where we know when they're acting in a way that's untrue to their character.
So much of it is just by feel. Like, it's almost like you can't describe it. It's like, unless you're a writer, you really don't know how it is to just, like, it feels wrong, so you have to correct it. If it doesn't feel right at that point, you still have to correct it until it feels right. You just have to start throwing it. I toss random things at them. I'm like, well, do you have this? No. Okay. Do you have that? No. Okay. Well, just shut up and talk then, you know. So I just get
that and talk. No wonder your characters have issues.
Well, you know, look who's writing them. So
I think the biggest piece of advice we have here to give to young aspiring writers is trust your gut. And don't be afraid of those weird ideas. And remember that even with characters, nothing is set in stone. And so you can see what would happen if your character did this or thought this or had this characteristic. And if you don't like it or it doesn't feel true, it can change. And
yes. That's like exactly the one thing that I would say to anybody is that it can always change if you're writing a first draft or even a second draft or even a third draft. Any draft. Just throw in everything you've got and just sift it out later is really the only way to do it.
And that's easier than it seems. When I edited, I was so afraid because my first draft was that I kept, every time I questioned it, I would go, it's a first draft, just move on. And I was so afraid of the mess I was leaving myself. But I went back and my characters needed work, but they were there. There was a framework. There was the groundwork done. It makes more sense than you think it does when you're writing this messy first draft.
Once you have the whole picture, once you have a framework to work with, it suddenly becomes actually easier. That you're not really sifting through a massive mess. You're actually have some framework there. So it's
And you don't have to keep pretty much anything you've written, but now you have the idea and your characters are there. And I honestly think that would be my number one advice for getting to know your characters is write the first draft. The things we do beyond that, character sheets and other things we'll talk about, are important and are helpful and allow you to get kind of to the core of your character and give you more ideas of random things to throw at them. But in the end, you have to take it back to that draft and see how it works in practice.
Yeah, and I usually don't actually do character sheets until I have a first draft down. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, you know, it's like I have to know some details and have them in my head before I can even start putting them down on a sheet, because if I have a plot, I mean, I'm not gonna just like throw down random character details on a character sheet and then they don't make any sense to what I'm writing. So
that's why you end up with character sheets that no longer apply in any way.
That's true. Yeah, I have a lot of defunct ones, but
and I wind up with a lot of those too because I like character drafts more than I like writing novels.
Yeah. We really should just make a bunch of characters and throw them into a random field somewhere and then like not write any books, you know?
That's a novel idea. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
I know, we could call it Kississippi.
What? That's such a ridiculous name, Catherine. Why would you even think of that?
But I think character sheets can be really useful. I don't even know who all of my, like, I don't know who will be in my book until I've written the first draft. Like, I don't, like, I know who my main characters are, but I don't know, like, I won't even know how many siblings my protagonist has, or who, like, if so-and-so has a girlfriend, or, like, you know, as I go through, I learn these things, and I meet people along the way.
Right. Yeah, you can't always know who's going to be in your book. They're just going to crop up as you need more characters. Characters will show up and they'll be like, hello, yes, I will fill this role that you didn't know that you needed filled.
Exactly.
But now I do.
And again, you just have to welcome them and be okay with that and not worry about knowing everything about them right now, because later you can develop them and learn who they are. And they may go through some extreme changes, you know? In the draft of one of my books, there's this girl who fills the position of mean girl, you know, like that was why she existed, was to be the head.
That gives me feels now.
I know, I shouldn't talk about her. But then after my first draft, I did a lot of character sheets and I learned her backstory and her emotional journey and her really tragic love story. And she developed into one of my main villains because I got to know her better, which is why I think character sheets are really, really useful. I would not know... I would not know about this tragic love story if I hadn't done her character sheets in her voice. I filled out those ones in first person, and she was given the opportunity to lie to me. She did not tell me about it until I'd done several character sheets, but I could tell she was keeping something from me. The way she answered questions was evasive, and I had another character that I did an interview with who his first questions he answered very briefly and succinctly and not helpful at all. And as we went along, his answers became more and more thrashed out and more, I learned so much more about him. And I think if I'd done the questions in a different order, he would have answered them differently.
Yeah, that's a lot of, there's just so much trial and error. And it's actually fun, guys. This may sound like a lot of work, but it's actually a lot of fun. And it's like elated. You get this elated feeling when you're actually something works out and you're like, oh, it's like meeting a new person but you don't have to actually talk to them. So
you get to become their friend, but at the same time, you don't have to worry about being tactful with the questions that you ask.
And you don't have to
know everything about them.
And you can be in your pajamas for like the whole time. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
Why does human contact exist when we have this stuff?
Right? There's a thing that I wish I could remember who said it and everything, but like it's the general effect is writing is a solitary business, but there's a lot of but it can be very social sitting around talking to imaginary people.
Yep. Most of my social life right there. I will say, here's a random tip right off the bat. Don't necessarily kill off every single parent you've got. All of the parents, don't kill them. They can be useful. Surprise, surprise, they can actually be useful characters.
No more dead dogs and mothers. I believe in that. No, seriously, and that is good advice right there to remember from the outset. Because once you've killed off their parents, it's kind of hard to bring them back.
I have killed and brought back Lark's parents probably like 5 times. It's like, she's like, just decide if I'm an orphan or not.
Poor Lark. And his parents are alive. But no, it's definitely, I actually, in my current project, one of my current projects, I have multiple, in my first draft, my heroine kind of just has like her parents and her brother, and then she has other siblings, but she doesn't really hang out with them. And then like in my next draft, she kind of hung out with her siblings, and then I realized she had cousins, and now like she's got this whole big extended family. But it's actually really exciting to have all these characters to work with. And there was a point to that. I just remember like,
what? My Big Hero 6. What was my point? I had a point.
No, I actually, like, since we're talking about character development, don't forget about families. And, you know, I understand the purpose behind orphan characters, like, I do. But I don't feel like most readers are orphans. Like, I'm sure there are some, and I'm glad they have people to read about. But most of us have some sort of family dynamic, and I think that can be really interesting. So don't shy away from it.
And don't always make your uncles evil. Now, you can. I like evil uncles, but, you know, you don't always have to. Like in the Glass Sentence, the uncle is a good guy.
I do like good uncles. But it's like you either get the cool uncle or the evil uncle. Like the cool, eccentric, crazy uncle or the evil one. I don't know. And now we're getting into the topic of cliches, which I adore cliches.
Why it was like we're just plot skipping. It's like, it went from characters to cliches to...
We've talked about, like, being a discovery writer.
Can we talk about Pinterest? Can we talk about Pinterest?
Let's talk about Pinterest. It's important.
Yes, it is important.
I want to screen share and share all my beautiful pages, but I won't.
No. Pinterest is ridiculously useful. And I didn't pioneer the idea, but I kind of, you know, I helped her recognize that it was useful for this purpose. So Pinterest is like a place where you can just have all sorts of character boards, and you can pin pictures of your characters and all of these situations that they could be in, and really anything. I have quotes, I have pictures, I have everything. And then it's an organizational tool. Fortunately, they only give you like 500 characters to write captions on. So I end up writing 500 character captions and then writing in the comments. It's just a way to organize things and be insane.
I thought that all of your boards are secret, because I wish I could see them all.
I know. I can't. I'm like really trying to mess with that idea. I'm like, well, I could make them public, or I couldn't make them. So I don't know. I doubt they ever will be, but you may see them eventually.
You should add me as a pinner. But no, I was going somewhere with the Pinterest idea. Oh yeah, I don't do individual character boards. I would seriously get carried away. But I do a board for my book, and finding pictures of your characters is ridiculously useful, especially with artistic ability. And people have asked a lot. That's something I want to talk about. People have asked a lot how I find pictures of my characters. I think you're better at finding actors who look like your characters.
I'm really good at finding actors.
And how do you do that? Do you just, when you watch things, do you think, oh, they look like so-and-so, or?
No, actually, like, I've done that before in the past, and it never worked. Like, it's always been, I was surfing through Pinterest, and then I came across a picture of an actor, and the thing is, I almost never am able to find characters when I watch them in something, because they're playing a different character. I can't actually listen to them speak or watch them.
I've only ever found one character that way, and that's because she was playing a fairly similar. I found Donella that way. One of the villains in Chuck is Donella.
It's like I just cannot listen. And sometimes, like, I have a fairly, I have some famous actors for my characters. If I listen to them speak, it all starts to crumble apart. or like, even I watch videos of them, I don't see them as the same thing. I think that's a lot of my struggle, is when I find an actor for my character, I want an actor. I have Stoddard cast, and I really like the actor. Like, I think he could play the character of Stoddard. Donella I found because I was watching a show where a similar character was there, and I was like, oh, her appearance works and stuff. And then my main protagonist, even though she kind of looks different, I kind of have her cast as Bailey Madison, because I think Bailey Madison would play her so well and has a lot of her personality and things like that. And I think that's why I have fewer actors as my characters, is because I need the whole package. Yeah, whereas I can just have a picture or a GIF. I love GIFs. What?
And I envy you because you get GIFs.
I love GIFs so much. It was like the best day if I find a shipping GIF or one of my random character doing a cartwheel. See, all of these things, they always they help,
Accurate. So wait, hold on. Oh, but I was going to talk about how I find characters.
Yes.
You asked interest. I don't understand how people can do it randomly. I have to make a very distinct decision that I'm going to find this character, and I take whatever information I have about them.
I have done that.
Which might be like 17-year-old brunette girl. I might even say 17-year-old brunette witch just to see what comes up. I go with the very specific brown-eyed, brown-haired girl. And then I just browse through pictures and I keep my character there. It's actually a really good character exercise, I think, along with helping you find a picture. You get to hang out with your character for a little while and they get to go, oh, I really like her hair. Oh, I kind of relate to her vibe. And then, oh my gosh, that is me right there.
The vibe is everything. Like, I have pictures of characters who really don't actually look that much like them, but they give off the vibe, the same vibe that my characters do, so I save it. And it's like, you know, and it just all goes into the same board of character vibe.
One of my characters actually got an actress that way, that I'm like, they don't actually look alike pretty much at all, but all of her pictures have this vibe to them.
Yep. Yeah, we sound a little crazy, but it's so true.
You're just
so true.
I mean, I think that's what it constantly comes back to, is you have to go by feeling and you have to just let that click. And I talk to them. I talk to my characters out loud. We have full-on conversations because it's the best way for me to get to know them.
I talk to my characters. I talk as my character. I can't talk to them. I have to talk to them either as them or as somebody who's talking to them, another character.
Which I actually think can be really good. I read somebody did interviews with their characters, and I did it where it was me interviewing them. But the girl, I found the interview on her page. I can construct sentences. The girl whose post I found it on, when she interviewed them, she had one of the characters in the book interviewing the other characters. And you kill two birds with one stone that way, or you get to know two characters with one interview. And it can be less weird. For those who are bothered by that, it gives you a sense of this isn't as crazy.
Yeah, well, it can be a little threatening almost to your story world if your characters know who you are. So talking to them as you, sometimes it doesn't feel right. So you have to disguise yourself.
I have that issue sometimes when our characters hang out with each other or whatever, where like they know they have an author and it's like, but you don't actually know you have an author. And so this
well, there are so many rules that have changed with that. It's just like, it really doesn't even make any sense anymore because they know who we are, they know who everybody else is, but then they conveniently ignore future canon plot elements that they should probably know about, but they don't actually say. And certain deaths that we should probably know about, but don't.
That she knows about that has already happened. Yeah, it gets complicated. And that is a good reason not to talk to your character. I feel like I don't have that problem, partly because I feel like my characters are actively telling me their story. And it's almost a sense of like it's already happened. And honestly, I had one character that I got to know by hanging out with him, and we hung out so much that I started calling him my imaginary friend. And he called me his imaginary friend. He was like, I'm not the imaginary one, you are, which caused a whole existential crisis for both of us. So we kind of this concept of like I'm not sure, they view me differently, and it causes weird dynamics sometimes.
Yep. Right.
But it's never disrupted my story. As soon as I get into canon, everything is different.
Yeah,
it really is.
My
characters is different when I'm writing than when I'm getting to know them. But all those little details that I've learned in the process come through.
Yeah, it's funny how different you feel when you actually start writing and you get into that world. Like, you could do all the planning in the world, but really you're going to feel entirely different as soon as you look on the page. It's a weird phenomenon.
And that's why just write it is always my number one advice to aspiring authors. Just get the stupid book written and edit it and rewrite it as many times as you need to. And yes, do character sheets and Pinterest boards and all of those wonderful things, but get the book written. don't spend so much time plotting that you don't actually write, because that's the most important thing. And that's where you're going to see all of these things actually come into play.
Surprisingly, the thing that seems like it's the super hard way actually tends to be the easier way once you get into it. Because life is like that, kids.
Once you get writing, it all kind of comes together and it makes sense. And you might have to learn new things about your characters. I find what'll happen is I'll be writing and I'll be like, I don't know what you would do in this situation. Like, normally it comes really naturally. Oh, they do this, and then they do this, and then something like, and then I have no idea what happens, because I don't know how this particular person would respond. And so I have to go back, and that's when I do my character sheets, and that's when I do things, is when I get stuck.
Yeah, characters have really surprised me. Like, I'll put them in this situation, and then I'll be like, well, you're probably going to act like this, aren't you? And they're like, no. And they act completely differently, and they'll start laughing in a serious situation, or they'll cry when they're supposed to be happy. Like, what are you doing? This is not what I thought you were going to do with your archetype that I thought you were.
Characters will always surprise you, and that's so important. You have to let them surprise you and do their own things, and not try to force them to be the image that you have of them, because honestly, that's how you end up with cliches. You said, like, the archetype I imagined. You do write from that. Automatically, you write from...
Well, I think it is good to have something like that, because then it keeps everybody kind of, you know.
Archetypes
yeah.
And they exist for a reason. But when your character acts against type, it's because they're a person, not...
Within reason. Within reason.
For some of us. Some of us just let them do whatever the heck they want.
Well, I mean, like some characters wouldn't. I mean, sometimes they go out of character within themselves because we try to do weird things and then it doesn't work at all. But you know,
sometimes they act against character, and that's like a completely other issue that is also a thing that you have to watch for. And that's something you pay attention to in editing as you see, you know, is this true to them? Because sometimes it's affected by your own mood. You know, I break into tears because I was too emotional to be writing the scene, and it has nothing to do with them.
Write the big picture and then scale down and focus on the little details, and it'll be easier, kids, all of you. Most of the people watching this are not kids, but I just call them kids anyway.
But no, I mean, I feel like we keep circling back to that theme of...
Yeah, well, this is the theme of the episode. See, we finally found a theme.
Which has nothing to do with what we were originally planning to talk about.
I would love...
Other things we do to get to know our characters. Other things that go on the Pinterest board, I've been getting better at finding songs.
Songs are awesome.
Which can sometimes be... Like, sometimes it doesn't really matter. Like, Suzera has, like, 9 songs. And I kind of ignore them. Like, sorry, you have a bunch of angsty songs.
Yep.
But every once in a while, like, I found a song that I listened to, and it changed my perception.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it comes back to, is when it clicks something, and something makes more sense because you have this song that resonates with your character.
And I have certain artists that will always make me think of a character, no matter what they're singing. It's weird. It's like, it's just something about their voice or how they express themselves.
Well, I feel something about that indie band we've started listening to because they are our characters. And it's not necessarily that all of their songs fit them, but the singers themselves, the genre of music, the vibe fits them.
Yeah, I always think, a lot of times I think of Berlin when I listen to Owl City. Like, for some reason, it's like something about that happy vibe that's like somehow seriously dark underneath. It's like Owl City can be kind of dark if you listen to certain ones.
Owl City is so sad in the most beautiful songs ever.
It's really genuinely sad, but it also has this kind of weird uplifting quality that it expresses him really well. And whenever I listen to... Which is Amber's?
Wasn't it the same as Rolanda's?
Oh yeah, Christina Perri, one of those, and then Ellie Goulding sometimes. I don't know, just like certain of like these female artists who are like Sarah Barry Ellis, people like that. They're just like...
Which is why if you find a song that you like for your character, it's a good idea to explore more by that band and figure out if that thing. It's not always. Marel only has one song, but it is so her. And as I was saying, I found one that summarized the love story between my characters, but actually completely changed their love story, because I was like, oh, this would be what was on his mind. Like, this is what he's thinking. I knew something was wrong, and now I know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
So songs are a good thing to save on Pinterest.
Yeah, I've done that.
You do use character sheets once you're to a point, right?
Yeah, I've done CaraHub and I've done HiveWord, and
neither of those are my favorite.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I do like having the electronic resource. I'm not sure. I honestly almost never look at my character sheets. I don't know.
Honestly, very, very rarely refer back to them unless I need like my character's birthday or their favorite color happens to come up. Which that often.
I just don't really care for them that much. I mean, I know that they're really useful, and I've done them. I don't know. I don't have like an affinity for them.
I totally do. Character sheets are my thing, especially ones that have you answer in first person from your character's perspective. I think those ones are infinitely better. Because you kind of get this different perspective of your characters where they're answering random questions and their personality really comes through. I mean, Jack will answer the most sarcastic things. Like, I asked him what his most distinguishing trait was, and he said, my sunny disposition. And I mean, it just, like, his character came through, even though the answer obviously wasn't what I would have answered if I'd been saying what his most.
Yeah, you have to. It's a weird thing. It's all about this feeling again. It's all about the feeling of the character.
With a really funny look on your face.
That's gonna be exciting. Now you froze with a funny look on your face. And you're still frozen.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, wait. There we go. Now you're back. Okay. What was I saying?
You were saying character sheets, and I was saying you have to answer in their voice and let them.
Oh, yeah. I was saying that whenever you're writing in their first person, you really just have to like cast on the feeling of their character, and once you feel that specific, unique character energy wash over you, then you can answer the questions to the best of your or their ability, whichever you want to say there. It's really it's tapping into that, and
I have like 800 different character sheets that I use, and different ones appeal to different characters, and different ways of getting to know a character work. I had a character that I could not get to know, and really, really needed to. And I did several character sheets, and I got very factual, useless information. And I tried a bunch. I couldn't find a picture of him anywhere. And finally, I sat down and did a text-based chat with him, where I basically interviewed him, but coming up with questions as I went. And that was when I would notice things that he would kind of linger on, I could kind of draw him out, get him to talk about that more. And that was how I finally got to know him. I never used that system. In fact, I haven't used that system in years, and I've kind of forgotten about it, but I could not get to know this guy. And it worked for him, and it doesn't work for everybody else. Character sheets don't always work, but Rolanda is a much deeper character because I did character sheets for her.
Right. Yeah.
Gelharson Levine talks about how in Two Princesses of Lamar, it was doing a character sheet that discovered the Book of Homely Truths. When she was trying to get to know the king, she said one of the questions was, what's in their pocket? And she discovered this book. So even though characters can seem really useless, sometimes when you're stuck, it's a really good thing to do, because you may suddenly stumble across something that is way more useful than you realized.
Yeah, I love finding just like random objects that are really important to them, because if it works, it really works. Sometimes they really just don't have anything, but
and that's why not every question is for every character. And sometimes you find something, but you just kind of are like, okay, that's not really relevant, and you move on. And I don't know, part of being a discovery writer especially is doing a lot of work that won't actually go anywhere. And that can seem discouraging, but character sheets are fun. I think the a waste of time than anything. Like, I will do character sheets for hours to procrastinate writing.
Honestly, no matter if you're a discovery writer or if you're a planning writer, yeah, you're just going to do so much that you throw out later because that's just the nature of writing. It's just rewriting. Yeah, the fear is pretty much all that's holding you back ever. Pretty much anything in your life, but especially writing. How like existential are we going to get? We're like advice for your whole life. But especially writing.
A lot of fear.
Move beyond it, everybody.
And don't be afraid of making mistakes. That goes for everything, but particularly for writing right now. It's so important to remember that your first draft is clay, not a carving in stone. And it's okay to do things that are dumb and to write your characters wrong, because you'll feel when it's wrong, and that's how you get to know what's right.
Newsflash, you will do it wrong.
Yes.
Probably many times.
Unless you'll do it wrong. Bradbury, which you're not, because he's dead.
Because you're not. Yeah, like unless you're like the reincarnated Ray Bradbury, but I wouldn't hold my breath. We're getting mean now.
It's a thing, and I honestly don't think Ray Bradbury wrote perfect first drafts. That's just a thing, and everybody hates him for it. But most people don't. I don't think J.K. Rowling did. I don't think a lot of famous authors, amazing authors, I think a lot of them wrote crappy first drafts.
Yep.
And did a lot of things with their characters that didn't end up being canon.
Right. I mean, yeah. They have to find their own canon first before they can.
Exactly. And the exciting thing about being a writer is you get to play with things that aren't canon and see what happens.
Write fan fiction for your books, everybody, for your own books. It's like it's the awesomest thing.
Write pages log AUs instead of writing canon.
No, you could though, because sometimes it becomes canon.
I don't think my villain is gonna win and fall in love. I don't think it's happening, Quinny. I'm sorry.
It could happen. Well, okay, it may give you ideas. It may give you ideas, though.
No, it's true. And I definitely have developed my characters to do.
Literally one of my hugest, is that a word? My biggest plot elements that is currently in existence is because I had a character was like, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I'm definitely going somewhere with this. A character said a line, and then I just extended upon that, even though there was really no reason to. I continued with a thought, and my character was being all snarky. Introduced an option that to them was so ridiculous that it could never happen, and then it did happen because now my villain has a girlfriend. I mean, see, things happen, you know?
It does. One of the things I do when I'm stuck on my novel and I don't know my characters very well, and this is going to sound really dumb, but in the story as I'm writing, I let them talk about their feelings.
Yep.
And
let the guys
talk
about their feelings.
I will have the most stoic, reserved guy and the crazy girl who pretends like she has no feelings. I will have them sit and talk about their love life, and it is the most ridiculous thing ever. But
it's so fabulous.
It's great. But it gives you insight into their character and what they're feeling, and things that they would never say. You give them a chance to say it because it's not actually canon. It's not actually on record. It's okay for them to make fools of themselves right now. And you have to tell your characters that too sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Now I want to go and like have my characters talk about their love lives. Like, hey, just talk about it all. You know, it's totally fine. You're totally safe here.
Seriously, I encourage letting them talk about either their love life or how they feel about the quest or how bored they are. Whatever it is they feel like talking about right now, let them. Another thing I love to do is write diary entries from the perspective of my characters, either things that happen before story or sometimes about what's happening in the story. And I actually did that. I actually did that with Phillida. I wrote a scene pre-story, but I ended up liking it so much that it wound up happening in the timeline. And it developed this whole plot that I hadn't known about and helped me develop one of my characters who I was trying to make a more major character. And that was actually a really good way. Well, we had 2 viewers and now we have 0. We scared them away. I'm stop watching the viewer count, but it's so fascinating.
I know, right? Hi, no viewers.
But that can be a really good way. Hey, we have one again.
Yeah.
That can be a really good way to develop a minor character, is to write about how your first person character feels about, or your like protagonist, your point of view character feels about them, or how they feel about the protagonist. Let minor characters write in first person for a while.
Mm-hmm. And then they may demand a bigger role in the book, but that's just a risk that you're gonna have to take.
That is my life. My main
know.
character's brother's best friend gets to be a protagonist of his own book. So be careful.
Trying to figure out who that is.
That would be Codswallop.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Kizzy.
We should probably start winding down. I feel like we've given some good advice in the midst of
this. I think we've managed it quite nicely. And then if we ever do this again, well, I think we'll be better prepared.
Maybe.
We should talk about plot next time,
which means we'll probably end up talking about character, since
exactly.
I think most of this we've talked about plot.
We should really just call this the Quinny and Katie talk about things.
Yeah.
Vlog, and then you probably will get some good stuff out of it, and then that's about it.
This is why you and I will never be allowed to be on panels together.
Ow! I just bumped my elbow. Yeah, it's gonna be a problem.
No, I like the idea of doing this again, and maybe instead of having a specific topic, we just talk writing, because that's what we talk about, and we
writing talks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's us for now, but we will be back. We'll set up a time, probably not Thursdays at 4, since this is normally our book group time. But we'll figure something out. Let us know what you thought, and if you have any specific questions that you would like us to answer more coherently.
Yeah, we can type more coherently than we can talk.
It's a real thing. We're writers, not orators. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Good Times.
Good times.
And we love all our viewers who have come and gone throughout the hour.
We love you all, people.
And maybe eventually I will learn how to take comments during the thing, and then.
Yeah. Right.
Whoa. Oh.
Then all 0 people can comment to us at once.
All right. That was good for now. But
all right.
Thank you for joining me, Quinny. And
thank you for having me on your illustrious channel.
You know what? If you're gonna mock my channel, you will know.
I wasn't. I was saying that it was really illustrious. I like it.
I just go away.
Bye.